everybody, welcome along to episode 167 of Percussion Discussion Podcast. Hope you're all well out there. Please check out all of our social media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and of course our world famous YouTube channel, where you can find the videos to accompany all of our conversations. Please subscribe if you can. It really helps grow the channel and informs you when there's any new content that is available. All of our conversations are available in podcast form. These are free to download from your favorite podcast provider. Please rate and review if you can. It really helps. And it helps like-minded drummers find us and like us as much as you do. On to today's guest. We've gone down a slightly different avenue today. Usually I concentrate on drummers and percussionists, but today we're looking at a drum builder, and a mighty fine one at that. Since 1987, Bill Detamore has been the head hog, the main man at Pork Pie Drums. They really do manufacture some of the finest drums on earth. They really do, and still continue to do so today. I'm sure you've all seen them and probably played them at some point as well. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome the wonderful Mr. Bill Detamore. Bill, thank you for doing this. What a great pleasure it is to meet you.
It's my pleasure. I appreciate the you taking the time to talk to me.
No, hey, it's an absolute pleasure. Now, normally, as I say, we don't do the product stuff. There's plenty of podcasts out there, including my good friend Bart's drum history podcast. You do it much better than me, but you've got such an interesting story. And over here in the UK, I mean, pork pie. Obviously, everybody knows pork pie, but the distributors over here. I mean, there's a few shops that sell it.
Right.
There's Drum Shop up in the northeast. I know they stock a lot of your stuff, but I think it'd be
Yeah.
nice to spread your story over in the UK as well. So that's
Uh,
a good
I'm
thing.
game.
Good,
Yeah. That sounds
good.
like fun.
So obviously, I think the best thing to do is to start at the beginning. So tell us a little bit about your sort of journey into drums before building them and and messing about with them. What was your kind of first memories of music, if you like?
Well, they um I had been back and forth with different hobbies, and I told my folks I was probably 15, I think. Um, I told my folks that I wanted to play drums, and they said, "You have been in and out of so many different hobbies lately. We're tired of spending the money. So if you want to do this, you have to figure it out." So there was a guy. I was riding around on my Stingray, my bicycle. That's how long ago it was. So I was riding my bike through the neighborhood, a few blocks away, and there was a guy that I knew. I knew his name, but I remember his name's Tony. I don't remember anything past that. And I heard drums coming out of his garage. So I went up and knocked on the door because I knew him. And I said, can I watch you? Can I, see what you're doing? And I walked in and he had this giant drum set. I mean, it had just, lots and lots and lots of pieces. And I said, because we live in the same neighborhood, I said, "How did you afford all of this stuff?" And he said, "Well, it's really easy." He said, "You go to different drum stores, because at that time there was drum stores everywhere. You go to drum stores, or we also had a newspaper called The Recycler, where people would sell used things. That was way, way, way before the internet. So he said, I go and buy a piece. I know I want a 12-inch tom, so I find a 12-inch tom. I take it all apart, showed me how the lugs come off. And he said, I go to this place down close to us. I was going to say the street, but that
Yeah,
doesn't
sure,
mean
sure.
anything to you guys. Um, he said, I go to this place called Gemmalite Plastic, and they have black and white. Now I know that it's PVC plastic sheets. So he said, I go there and I get the pieces and I wrap it around and I glue the seam, however he glued the seam, I'm not sure. And then I put the lugs back on. And so he had all kinds of different toms and bass drums that I didn't know. And but they all matched in color.
Yeah.
So so that's what I did. I started finding old pieces and doing his thing with the first one I did was white plastic uh, vinyl sheets, and figured out how to take them apart and put the stuff on and poke the holes and put the lugs back on. And I built a drum set slowly.
Yeah. Because
And that's how I got my first drum set.
let's be honest, at that age, you don't really care too much how it sounds. You know, you're not going to go, well, hang on, this is birch, this is maple. I
Right.
can't mix as long as it's the same color, who
Right.
cares? It's
Right.
right, isn't
Yeah.
it?
That's the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of Neil Peart in us at that point in our lives, you know. So that led to after I did that and had my drum set. I mean, the first drum set I had, I didn't know anything about hardware. I knew what a cymbal stand was, and I had hi-hats that were so thin if you pushed on them too much, they would invert. So so I didn't understand or didn't know about how to mount a rack tom on a bass drum because these drums that I got didn't have that.
Sure.
So I took a chair and turned it around and got some wire and I held it up with wire and I just had the time of my life.
Wow.
And so that was I was probably 16, 17 years old, you know, by the time that happened. And then I started reading in the back of Modern Drummer how people were uh, redoing like bearing edges and things like that. So I would go into that paper called the recycler and I would buy old drums and I would take them apart and clean up all the parts, put them back together, and then resell them.
Mm.
And then I started, yeah, I was like, well, what the heck is a bearing edge? And I learned what a bearing edge is and what it does. And then I started cutting bearing edges for people. And after that, then there used to be a company out here that I think they bought Fibes.
Oh, okay.
Uh, the first time Fibes was for sale.
Yeah.
The company was called the Quarter Drum Company. I think they were in not Arkansas, but like Georgia or,
Mm.
you know, somewhere in the uh, not Nashville, but they were in that kind of like that
Oh,
area. And they had a kit that you could buy, which was a shell that was drilled, all the lugs, excuse me, top and bottom hoops, even came with heads, snare wires, throw offs, and you did your own finish and put it together, and you know you make your own snare drum
mm.
basically.
Yeah.
So I bought one of those. And my father, who had worked in a body shop when he was very young, showed me how to spray lacquer. So I made this box in the garage with a fan on one side, a hole cut in it, put a fan up there, and polluted the neighborhood spraying lacquer. Uh, and then I taught myself how to sand it and then how to buff it. And then I started moving into urethanes and the more popular, or not popular, the finishes that we use now.
Mm.
I figured out how to use those and kind of, you know, went from there.
So you're kind of in the unusual position where you can do everything from start to finish. Then you can, I mean, like, if you don't mind, can we go back a little bit to the bearing edges because that's not a simple thing to learn. And the tooling. Did you have like a router table at the time, or did you? How did you do it?
Well, the first time, because I had a, very brave father, he would hold the shell with his hands, and then I would go around it with a router.
Wow.
And then I found out that it's supposed to be a router table with the router mounted underneath,
Yeah.
coming up from the bottom, and then you adjust it up and down to cut the edge that you want. So basically, the whole time I was just figuring stuff out as I went along. Because you got to remember, back then this was uh, probably 82, 83, something like that. I mean, nobody had even an idea what the internet was. The only information that we could get was out of Modern Drummer. So everything that I did, I had to teach myself and make all my own tools.
Wow. So as far as bearing, there must have been some literature around on bearing edges. I'm guessing at that time.
No,
Nothing.
there was the only thing that was available. What uh, like Modern Drummer used to have a thing in the back called Tech Tips.
Hmm.
But I would also read my copy of Modern Drummer, which would say that uh, uh, an example, Jeff Porcaro's drum tech would say, "Oh yeah, we got some these Radio King snare drums from a guy named Pat Foley who just recently passed away, who was a really good friend." And what Pat would do is he would get these old Radio Kings and he would paint a nice sunburst finish on them and then redo the edges. And I think he redid the edges with a file, which is fine. Everybody has their own thing.
Hmm.
So I took that and then I learned that on old drums you get that have springs in the lugs, you get the spring ring. So I figured out, take some felt, cut it and wrap it around the spring and then put the spring back in and eliminate that. So it was a slow process of reading whatever was in Modern Drummer at the time and then figuring out the rest on my own.
Mm. Did you get any wrong along the way?
Always. That's that's the only way that you learn
Sure.
is to screw something up and then you have to figure out how to fix it.
Mm, mm. I mean, the thought of doing a bearing edge, as a total beginner, it just terrifies me. It really does, because, you know,
Right.
I think everybody knows the importance of having a good bearing edge. Having that contact all the
Mhm.
way around. Um,
Yeah.
were you kind of doing the same bearing edge, or were they all round over, or how were you kind of doing the same thing on every drum at the time?
I would try to mimic what was on there, but make it better.
Yeah. Okay.
Here's one thing that I did find the hard way. This was a mistake. So, and I have no idea where I got the drum or who I got it from, but it was a Pearl 6.5 by 14. And I did this custom finish on it. And I did not know that if you uh, see the best way to put this. So here's the wall, the outer wall of the shell right here. And you're supposed to make a cut that comes almost to that outside vertical
Sure.
point of the shell. I didn't know that if you go a little bit farther, that every time you go around, it gets shorter.
Of course. Of
So
course.
my Pearl 6.5 by 14 snare drum that I did a nice custom finish on is now a 5 by 14.
Wow, that's quite a difference.
Yes, because I was cutting both sides and I'm like, why is it crooked? And why is there a big step in it and then I figured out that, it has to be less of a cut and, but that's how you learn.
Yeah.
I never done, I did it once and I've never done it again. So
And that was that for somebody else or for yourself?
no, just for myself. I
Okay.
still have that drum here, actually.
And does it sound okay?
Oh, it sounds great. It's because it's an old, early 80s pearl shell.
Yeah.
At that time, they were getting all of their shells from Keller before they started making their own shells.
Right. Okay.
So it's a early 80s Keller shell, and the plies are quite a bit thicker than the plies that we get today
Hmm.
because over time, uh, all of the wood that has been used, the veneers keep getting thinner because they're trying to make what we have left go farther.
Sure. Sure.
So
Okay.
the early Keller shells are much thicker. So it's a nice thick Keller shell. Um, Original 80s, early 80s snare drum. And it
Yeah.
sounds great because it's a great shell.
Yeah. It's probably quite rare as well, I'd imagine, for that era.
Yeah, there's not that many out there. Once they started getting their shells made in Japan, then they started putting like heavy lacquer on the inside. So if you got a black drum set, the inside was black and it was very, very thick.
Yeah.
So this was before they did that, and there was no finish on the inside, which is what I like.
Mm. Wow. So I sort of cut you off and we went back a little bit, but you were saying you were buying these kits and you'd buy one and do a finish on it. That's where we got up to, and then I took you back again to the bearing edges.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So yeah, so I bought my first one, and here's another story about learning. Was I did what I thought was going to be a good snare bed, and I took it to a store out here called Valley Arts that I used to do stuff on consignment back then. And one of the guys behind the counter called me up and said, "Hey, I think this drum has quite a bit of rattle, and I think it's because the snare beds aren't deep enough. So I went and picked it up, brought it back, and recut the snare beds deeper, and that solved the problem. So that was another learning curve, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, another terrifying thing. I'm guessing it's, just take a bit at a time. You can't put it back, but you can take more off, I'm guessing is the rule
Right,
of thumb.
right. Well,
Yeah,
if you take too much off, then you have to make the shelf shorter.
yeah. Which we know can be done.
Yeah, I'm very good at it.
So where did it go after that then, Bill? Once you started buying these kits, was that something you did more of, or did you?
Yeah, what I usually tell people is I bought one, and when I sold that, then I bought two, and I sold those two, then I did three, and sold those and did four, and and it just snowballed from there.
Mm. And at this point, did you kind of have the bug? Did you have any idea that this is what you were going to do?
No, at that time I was working at a company very close to here that was called Rocketdyne. And Rocketdyne, what they did was they made the main engines for the space shuttle.
Oh, wow.
So I was working there in the art department, and when we had downtime, that's actually where I created the pork pie logo
Okay.
and all that stuff. So I did all of that stuff on my own.
Mm. So I'd imagine that was a pretty good job as well, at the
It
time.
was a good job, but it takes a certain personality to work for the government. And after a certain amount of time, I realized that I did not have that personality because guys that, especially like the old timers that worked at Rocketdyne, they lived, and when I say they lived for it, they lived for overtime. They
Oh,
just, they wanted overtime every day. There was times we'd work 80 hours a week, staying there till 10, 11 o'clock at night, and yeah, almost every Saturday, sometimes Sundays. And, I was still playing drums at the time. I was surfing, I was racing bicycles. There's other things that I wanted to do. But I never went at this. I never looked at this as a way to not have to have, like a 9 to 5
hmm.
job. That part of it, it honestly, it just snuck up on me when I wasn't looking. And what that was, when I was working at Rocketdyne, I received a phone. It had to have been a phone call because nothing else existed. I received a phone call from John Good at DW, and he said, hey, we have a trade show, the NAM show, in 4 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever it was. And he said, we're really having a problem with our finishes. Would you be interested in coming out and helping us? And just by chance, uh, I mean, literally just by chance, that was right before the Christmas break. And at Rocketdyne, pardon me, at Rocketdyne, the place used to shut down for 2 weeks at Christmas.
Sure.
For me, that was golden time because there was no overtime and I could go out and surf and do whatever I wanted to do. So he said, "Would you come out and see if you can help us?" And I said, "Sure, I'd love to." So I went out and met John, I think, on an evening before the Christmas holiday, and he showed me what they were looking at, and he said, "We really need to get this happening before the NAM show." So I worked my entire Christmas break at DW, uh, getting these finishes ready for the NAM show.
Mm.
So I did that, and then I went to one of my first times going to the NAM show was with them,
They must
and
they must have been in their infancy then, Bill.
yeah,
Yeah.
they were just starting to do drums.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, literally just starting to do drums, and getting shells from Keller, and then they were having. There used to be a company out here, which I think they own now, called Gone Bops.
Oh, yeah.
And so Gone Bops was down in like the heart of Los Angeles, where we were,
It's percussion, isn't it? Gone bops.
yeah, the
Yeah.
bongos and congas and
Mm.
things like that. So they took those Keller shells and gave them to Gonbops and had them do the finish. And the finishes had dust in them, and they were, they had never painted a drum before. They're painting a bongo that's this big, and now you got a bass drum that's this big. They didn't know what to do, so they did the best that they could at the time. So what I did was I went out there and I color sanded everything and then buffed everything to get it so it was ready for the show.
Gotcha.
And
So
then after the NAMM show, then I was working at Rocketdyne, and then I would go out to DW after I was done working at Rocketdyne, and I started doing painting there and sanding and buffing and whatever needed done. I was just working on drums. What did I care what I was doing? And then one day I went to John and I said, "Look, I'm working at least 40 hours at Rocketdyne every week." With and all the overtime. And then I'm coming out and I'm working 20 to 30 hours for you every week. And I said, I'm killing myself because it was also a half-hour drive to there and then a half-hour drive home. So I said to him, I'm sorry to tell you this, but it's you either hire me or I can't do this anymore because I can't do two jobs.
yeah,
So they ended up hiring me and I started with them, I believe. Well, it was in June. Might have even been June 1st of uh, 98.
right.
And then I was there for 1 year. And just by chance, when I gave my notice, my last day was June 1st of 89.
Wow.
So so I was there for a year and I had become my goal was to not work two jobs,
Yeah.
right? But then I started getting so busy with the pork pie stuff, I was working two jobs again. So I got to a point where again I was just beat, just beat up. And I remember calling my mother on a Monday night and I said, I'm going to quit my job tomorrow. And she, I mean, imagine what your mother would say if you told her that. And she said, "Well, what are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, I have no bills. My car is paid for. I have rent and I have to feed my dog. Other than that, I don't have any I wasn't married, I didn't have children, I had nothing to hold me back." I said, "I just feel that if I'm going to do this, that I have to do this now."
Yeah.
And she said, "Well, do you think you can do it?" And I said, "I have no idea, but I can always get another job."
Yeah.
So I was on June 1st of 1989, I was self-employed.
Wow. And
And here's
where was your shop at this point then? Was this from home or
in my garage.
okay, right.
Yeah, in my
Yeah.
garage. So here's another learning thing I look back at it now and I think it's funny, but at the time it was like, what the hell am I doing? I must be out of my mind. So my first day being self-employed, a guy brought me he went to that store Valley Arts that I just mentioned. He bought a brand new 5x14 Noble and Cooley. And I think he paid like $700 for it. And he went from the store to my house, and I had never met the guy before. Went from the store to my house, and he wanted me to cut the bearing edges for him on this thing. So at that time, I had a little tiny router table that I was using, and I was in my garage with the door closed so I didn't kill the neighbors, or they didn't kill me. And so I was cutting the edges, and since June in California is very hot.
Yeah.
So it was a particularly hot day, and I was sweating everywhere. And that brand new Noble and Cooley slipped out of my hands and fell right on the bearing edge, right on the router bit, and took a chunk about this big, about a half-inch divot in that bearing edge. So I turned the router off and I just stood there, and the guy said, "Is everything okay?" And I said, "I just ruined your drum." And he said, "Okay. What do we do about this?" And I said, "Well, let's go in the house and I called my friend Gary Levine, who at the time was the manager of Valley Arts drum department. I called him up and I told him the situation, and he said, "You've always been great. Just come on down. I'll do the best that I can for you on the price." So I threw that guy in my car. We drove over to Valley Arts. So my first day being self-employed cost me about $600.
Oh, ouch. Right. And
Learning experience number two.
and can I ask, Bill, right? Obviously, Noble and Cooley are known for their quality, high quality drums, and I'm sure it's always been the same. What what would what were you having to change on it? Was it the angle of it, or imperfections? What would it have been?
Imperfections.
Yeah. Wow, that's a surprise. You'd think they'd come
Yeah.
out of there perfect, wouldn't you? But
No,
wow,
no.
there we
We
go.
we cut we cut bearing edges weekly, still to this day.
Mm,
We cut bearing edges weekly on everything. Anything you can imagine, we cut edges on.
wow.
Anything and everything we cut bearing edges on.
That's do you is there, I mean, you don't have to mention a brand here, but is there a brand that is better at edges, consistently than other brands, or are they all can they all be a bit inconsistent?
Everything's inconsistent. That's why people
Really?
bring them to us. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So
I
you're
mean, all the gold records that I have in this room and all the customers on the walls, uh, you know, they a lot of times before they even get their hands on something, they have it shipped from the company to me. We redo the bearing edges and then it goes to the guy.
wow. So they're taking no chances. Let's get them as perfect as they can be and then record them.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
that's quite it's quite a thing to be the guy who does that. And is it you personally that does all the edges, Bill, or do you have somebody else who'll do them for you now or alongside you?
We have I have five employees, including myself.
Yeah.
So let's just say that my friend Maddie calls me up and says, "Hey, I've got this Yamaha kit that I want bearing edges on, or a DW kit, or Tom, Pearl, whatever, a vintage Ludwig kit. We do all of that stuff." If you called me up and you were in LA, I would say, "Hey, if you can come down." Um, Excuse me, if you can come by at noon tomorrow, we can cut your bearing edges while you wait. So I cut them, and then when I get done with them, I pass them on to one of the guys. They sand them, spin them on the granite block that we have, and then another guy takes them over and starts putting heads on them. And we can do a kit, like a five-piece kit. Sorry, we can do like a five-piece kit in like an hour.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I find this stuff fascinating. And do you know the companies where the drums come from? Say if they're shipped out new, going to the artist, they come to you. I'm assuming if they're shipping them to you, these companies know exactly what's going on.
Oh yeah, that's why a lot of them hire me to do stuff for them.
Wow. You'd think there'd be almost an embarrassment side of this that, well, we should be able to get this right, but obviously they can't.
Well, they can't because to get it the way that we get them done for my guys, I call them my guys,
Yeah,
whoever for you
yeah,
is we take the imperfections of something being made on an assembly line
yeah,
and we uh make the corrections to the assembly line work.
yeah. So you're adding a little bit
Because
of love, a little bit of love to it, really.
yeah, it's so here's one thing, and this will be another subject, but we can come back to it.
Mm,
So when I am making my stuff, everything we do in my little shop here, I mean, everything we do is done by hand. I do all the painting. Jose, who works right outside my window there, he does all the wraps and all the satin finishes that we do in house. Um, and then when we go to drill all the holes in the drums, we have, and I'm not lying here, we have paper templates, cardboard templates that we have that have all the marks for where everything goes. So we put it on the cardboard on a Lazy Susan, and we put it on there, center it, and then make marks and then put some tape on it. And everything we do is completely done by hand. We have a drill press. We're going like this on the drill press. All the edges are sanded. That's why my thumb has a giant callus on it. Um, but we do all the manufacturing for the new Rogers stuff, right?
Ah,
And I was being interviewed by Phil Hood, who used to own Drum Magazine, and he was doing an online thing at the time. So I was being interviewed, and he goes, why do you guys do everything by hand? And I just looked at him and I said, because it's cool. And yeah, but you could get a CNC machine to do all that. And I said, anybody can use a CNC machine. What's cool about that? There's nothing cool about a CNC machine. This diatribe that I've been on right now, I firmly believe, I mean, I truly believe that the more you physically touch something, you're giving it a soul, you're giving it a purpose. So with my stuff, I want my guys to touch that stuff as much as humanly possible.
mm,
That's why we sand the edges by hand. That's why, when we get a kit in for bearing edges, we sand everything by hand. And it just, I mean, like I said, it's cool.
yeah. So there's nothing automated whatsoever. It's all done by hand.
My computers are my guys. When they're drilling the holes, marking and drilling the holes, it's just, I mean, everything is done by hand.
Yeah. And doesn't that show the importance of having the right people around you as well?
Of
Reliable
course, yeah.
craftsmen.
I mean, Jose, the guy I talked about, who's works right outside my window, he's been with me for 19 years now. Gus, who makes all of my thrones, has been here for 21 years.
Yeah.
And then my son he's 7 years. And, I'm beyond grateful that I have these guys, that I can rely on.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
and I'm very lucky, and uh, uh, maybe they're lucky that I realize how lucky I am. I don't know. I don't
Mm,
want to come off like I'm, better than anybody else, but I fully understand how lucky I am.
sure. No, I understand. So the Rogers shells then, are they all made in-house as well?
No, we don't make. If I could show you how big my shop is, you'd
Okay.
look at it and go, "Well, where's the rest?"
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Uh, because it's tiny. The shop that's behind me right now is about 1,200 square feet.
Yeah.
And then there's a parking lot that I'm looking at now, and then there's a building in front,
Hmm.
and that building is 1,200 square feet. So we do all of everything that we do in basically 2,400 square feet.
Sure, sure.
So there's no room for shells because all the shell making presses, it would take up probably another 20, it would take at least minimum 5,000 square feet
Wow, okay.
because they take up a lot of space and a ton of power.
Mm,
I mean, the amount of electricity that they draw in with all of them is just insane.
yeah, I'm sure.
So the Rogers company, I'm going to back up a little bit on you here.
Mm,
So the previous owner of Rogers was Yamaha.
yeah.
Yamaha had the only thing that they really did with Rogers is they threw a script logo on some import stuff. And I don't really think their heart was into doing anything with Rogers. That would be a question for them. I
Sure.
honestly don't know.
Yeah.
So the company that we deal with over in Taiwan does a lot of work for Yamaha, and they went over to Yamaha and said, "We'd really like to buy the Rogers brand from you." So they bought the Rogers brand. When they bought it, I remember being at the NAMM show. I'm gonna guess it was 2015, I think. One of the representatives from the company came up to me and said, "Hey, we just bought Rogers, and excuse me." He said, "We just bought Rogers, and when we're ready, we would like you to do all of the manufacturing for us at your shop." So I said, "I'm in." I didn't ask any questions. I just said, "Count me in." And then we started doing prototypes and different things. Here's a good story about bearing edges. So the first Rogers snare drum we made, when they got the shell construction figured out, we did the first sample that we ever did. Um, Nobody was really clear as to what they were trying to achieve out of the drum. So I just cut an edge. I'm like, I don't know where to go with this. So let's just start off with what I do. So it was a 5x14. That drum was shipped to Steve Jordan and he hit it a couple of times and he goes, nah, that's not it. So they sent it back. And then from his comments on the shell, I just said, oh, okay, I know what I'm doing now. So we did a much bigger roundover on the top. Um, and got that one done and sent it back to him. And he hit it a couple of times, played it a bunch, and he said, "This is spot on. This is exactly how they should be."
Wow.
So that's an example of how you figure out what a drum is going to tell you what it wants to do by the note and the timbre and the size and everything else. So it's going to tell you what it wants. So once he gave me some instruction, I'm like, okay, the note of the shell is really high. There's too much high end. How do we get rid of the high end? How do we make it warmer? And so I just put it together from there.
That's incredible. Well, and when Steve Jordan is singing the praises of the drum, then you've got a good drum on your hands, haven't you? Let's be honest.
That's kind of what I thought. And then he took that drum and did a whole summer run with John Mayer with that snare drum.
Yeah. Did you ever get it back?
Well, I don't own it, so
Yeah, well,
wherever it is, that's on them.
yeah, yeah. So I'm guessing you made the prototypes in your own shop, and then once everyone's happy with it, then it'll go off to wherever they're made now. Then is that right?
Yeah, all the company who owns it is in Taiwan. So they did a very, very good job of retooling all of the hardware because when they bought Rogers, the only thing that was left was the name.
Yeah,
There was no tooling, there was no parts, there was no nothing. So they went out and bought a whole bunch of different snare drums and copied all of the pieces, but they did it with modern technology. So the pieces that they make now are much, much better quality than they were back in the day.
yeah,
And the process to making the lugs with pouring the zinc is much better than it was back in the day also.
yeah.
But I mean, they even retooled the rail for the bottom, for the Dynasonics on the bottom.
Oh, okay. Right.
They
Wow.
did everything. I mean, literally everything. So they spent a tremendous amount of money retooling all this stuff.
But I have to say they are beautiful drums because I was at the UK Drum Show in Liverpool last September, October, I can't remember, and Rogers had quite a presence there on one of the stands, and they were beautiful looking drums. They really
Right.
were. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that was might have been with Sound Service or something like that.
I'm not sure. I can't
I
remember.
think they're the importer in the UK.
Yeah, yeah, but they really and they looked $1 million. They really did. So I was very impressed.
Ah, well, thank you.
Great finishes as well, I have to say.
So it's been a lot of fun. I mean,
Mm.
it's been a great ride, and uh, they're coming out. The newest one that's coming out, they redid remember back in the day they had the Mardi Gras finish.
Yeah, great finish.
Okay, they figured out how to do the Mardi Gras finish in lacquer.
Wow.
So that's the new one that's coming up. We're getting a shipment of those in, I think, 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And so those are going to be hitting the market and they look unbelievable.
Yeah. They don't seem to have lost any credibility. The fact that they're made overseas, because let's be honest, the talent that they have over there, they don't. There's no corners cut, is there at all?
No, and
It
I'll
might
tell
be.
you this, pardon me, they have a certain formula for the shells and the shells, like use the Dynasonic snare drum as an example. So what they did was they picked an era and everything that we're doing is from that era.
Mhm.
So the era that we're doing on the shells is a 3-ply shell. It's maple that's horizontal, poplar that's vertical,
Yeah.
and then maple that's horizontal again. And then I don't remember if it's a 2 or 3 ply maple ring, reinforcing ring on them, but those plies are very, very, very thick. I mean, they're really thick.
Yeah.
So it's a good wall thickness. And we were looking to have the shelves made over here. And we went to Keller, we went to Nordic, and we went to Croviato, and nobody could figure out how to make the shells.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So they came up with the technology, taught themselves how to make this, and so and the shells are, for lack of a better term, they're magical.
Mm.
If you hold it on your finger and you tap it, the snare drum shells sound like a solid steam bent snare drum shell, and it's a ply. So that's the key to everything is a shell.
Wow. And tell me, Bill, I've often wondered this, because people usually tell you what the reinforcement ring is made of. Does it make a huge difference to the sound of the drum if does it vary from what the ring is made of?
Well, sometimes when I put rings in, if I'm just wanting to make something fun, to put out on the market,
Hmm.
not necessarily a production thing, but if I just am, messing around,
Hmm.
sometimes I will use a 8 ply ring on the top and then a 6 ply ring on the bottom. Or sometimes I will, if I have some mahogany shells that I chop up, and I'll have a piece of, enough mahogany. I'll put mahogany rings in a maple shell because mahogany is a much softer wood than maple. So instead of that focus from the maple rings being up here, it's going to be, kind of like down here.
Okay.
So it's not going to be as bright as 2 maple rings.
Wow. So it does make a subtle difference then.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It does.
I've often wondered. I've never really spoken to anybody that builds drums before. So these are the questions I've had sort of piling up in the back of my brain. I thought I'll ask
Sure, sure.
comes up. So yeah, interesting stuff. So
That's where you get into trouble when your wife says, "What are you thinking about?" I wonder what a ring does.
she'd never believe me, Bill. Don't worry about it. Um, So obviously, let's get back to pork pie. I mean, the name has been around for a long time, and we see obviously the little squealer. That's the one that everybody knows the name of.
Sure.
Hugely popular things. But you've got, and this interests me. You do acrylic drums now.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. We've made in the time I've been in business, I think we've made like 15,000
Wow.
acrylic drums.
Wow. And do you like the way the acrylic drums sound? I'm a fan personally.
Yeah, they have a thing, it's they sound great. And there's a certain edge that they like. They don't like a big fat round edge because the shell is not the shell is an acrylic shell is very dead.
Yeah.
So we're trying to pull stuff out of the shell instead of, hiding it,
Yeah.
in the shell. Um, Interesting story about acrylic is my friend Walter years ago did a tour with Susie and the Banshees,
Mhm.
and we made him a really big acrylic kit for Budgie. And
Budgie's been on the show, by the way.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I love Budgie. He's
He's
very
great. He's
nice.
a lovely
I
guy.
have a picture right up on my wall.
I think he lives
But
in
yeah,
Germany, doesn't he?
yes, yeah, and I think Susie's in France.
Yeah.
Um, so we made this acrylic kit for Walter to take out for Budgie. And about halfway through the tour, he called me up and he said, "If I ever ask you to make me an acrylic kit again, whatever I tell you, don't do it. Just flat out don't do it." So for him, because he's out on the road, having one in your house is one thing, but
Mhm.
going on a big tour is totally different. So for him, uh, uh, the kit being on stage and looking the best that it can be is very important to him as a tech. So acrylic shows every fingerprint that you can possibly imagine shows up. And what people don't know about acrylic is like here, it's very dry here, right? So if we get a lot of wind and it's dry, acrylic is like a magnet to sawdust and dust and everything else. So it just sucks itself to the shell. Sometimes we even have to, I don't know if you guys have it over there. I'm sure you do, probably a different name, but something that you spray your clothes with to get rid of the magnetic,
Okay.
charge that they have, or the dryer sheets. We have dryer sheets,
Yeah.
and you put it in the, okay, so um, sometimes we have to wipe the acrylic down with a dryer sheet or that spray so it's not so magnetic with the dust. Because we'll clean it here. Excuse me, we'll clean it here. By the time we get around to the other side, all that dust is back on it.
Gosh. Right. Yeah. But they do sound great and they
Oh,
look great
sure.
as well. They really do.
Yep.
And tell me, do you once you make one acrylic kit and you make another one, is the sound pretty much identical, would you say? I mean,
Yeah,
it's
because we've
not an organic material, is it?
yeah, we get so we have only ever bought acrylic shells from one company. So acrylic is acrylic. They make their own acrylic sheets.
Oh, wow.
They actually pour them. So from one to the other, it's not going to vary. And I would say, just thinking about this now, it's not going to vary that much because the shells are so dead.
Mm, mm,
If you tap an acrylic shell, it just has a nice thunk to it. It doesn't have a note.
yeah.
Where like a maple shell, if you hold it up and hit it, like let's say a 6-ply maple shell, you hit it, it's going to have a nice drawn out note. And then if you do the same thing with the same size, same depth, 8-ply acrylic or 10-ply acrylic and hit it, the note is going to be completely different.
So it relies totally on heads and tuning then for a varied
Yes, it
sound.
does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Really
And
interesting.
the acrylic is so hard and it's very reflective. So, that's where the cool part of acrylic comes from is the hardness of the shell.
Sure, sure. Wow.
Instead
Um,
of absorbing, it pushes it out.
just honestly, this I find this stuff absolutely fascinating. Maybe I should do more in product stuff because I find questions popping up left, right, and center, that I've never had the chance to ask before. So there we go.
Sure, sure.
So yeah, it's great stuff.
So
So where
here's
are
here's
you?
one thing
Oh,
let me forgive me.
oh no.
So you had brought up the name, and I will tell you exactly where the name came from. So there was a movie, or there is a movie, I have it over here somewhere, from New Zealand called Goodbye Pork Pie.
Okay.
And my friend Mark and I were sitting on my couch, drinking a couple of beers and trying to think of the name for the company. And we kept on throwing stuff back and forth, and we're watching this movie. And I said, "What do you think about pork pie percussion?" And he goes, "Great, but you don't have the balls to do it." I'm like, "Okay, that's what we're doing. That's it." So
It's
that's where the name came from.
it's a great name and a great logo, I have to say. The logo is it's totally different. It's one of those ones you don't forget easily.
Right.
Some drum brands you go, oh, what are they called? But Pork Pie Percussion is, you know, it's quite a memorable one, I think,
Sure,
which is
sure.
great. And so obviously, you kind of synonymous also for the amazing thrones that you produce.
Hmm.
They're not dull, and I mean that in a good way. So
Right.
is that something you'd always done, or
Uh,
how do you suddenly decide? Well, let's make thrones because it's quite
I
a
can tell you, I can tell you exactly how it happened. So uh, DW is about 20, 30 minutes west of here.
Mhm.
They're in a town called Oxnard. Next to Oxnard is a town called Ventura. And I was doing a gig there at a bar. And when we were on break, I went up to the bar and got water or whatever I got. And I was sitting on a bar stool and I looked next to me like this. I'm looking at it, looking at the bar stool next to me, and I'm like, I'll be damned, that looks like a throne top. And then it was, excuse me, I'm sorry, it was done in green sparkle vinyl. And I'm looking at it going, that looks like a throne. And how cool would it be to make a throne with colors? Because nobody does it.
No,
So that's how the whole thing started.
wow. And obviously now, you can spot your thrones a mile off. I know they've got the name on
Mhm.
them, but if they didn't have the name on them, I know
You'd still know.
a few people have jumped on the bandwagon, but they're not. It's not the same.
Right.
You'd spot it, and you'd go, yeah. So I'm guessing that's a huge part of the business as well now, the thrones.
Oh yeah, we do about 4,000 thrones a year.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And the other thing that's again because it's cool, we make all of the thrones here and we make them all by hand.
Wow, that's
Every one of them. I
wow.
have one guy that all he does is make thrones.
So how long then from start to finish to make a throne? Because I wouldn't have an idea if I was guessing. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't get.
Well, it's see, we never we never make just a throne.
Sure.
We're working on an order for Guitar Center right now for
Mhm.
like 150 pieces. So our lead time, because we have so many thrones on back order, because we can't make enough of them, our lead time on thrones is about 90 days.
Right. Okay. That's
And how long each one takes, I couldn't give you an honest answer on that because we never do, just one at a time. One day we'll do a time study, but it's like a train. It just chugs along and the orders come in, we send them out, and we just chug them out. That's all we do is chug them out.
isn't that a great problem to have that you can't make enough of them? That's the ultimate,
Yeah,
isn't it? Yeah.
yeah.
And I bet that was a hell of a hell of a learning curve to make a throne.
Well,
Some
yeah.
technology in there.
Here's another story. So when I first started doing thrones, we had a company down in a city called Gardena, which is near LA Airport, LAX, and they were making all the throne tops for us. And we used them for probably 20 years, 20 plus years. And their business model changed. Ours stayed the same. So one day, out of frustration, Gus came to me. Gus is the gentleman who makes the thrones for me. And he said, just out of frustration, he goes, "Why aren't we making these here?" And I just said, "I don't know. Let's figure it out." So we went from, in a period of about 3 months, uh, we had to, excuse me again, and we had to find out what foam we were using. And then we had to find a place to buy it.
Mm.
Because we have to, right now, after COVID, the only thing we make is a round throne. So we had to find somebody that had the capabilities to get the foam and also to cut the diameter that we want. So we had to source that. Then we had to source where do we get the cool material. Then we had to source the wood for the bottom. Then we had to source somebody who could cut the wood on the bottom in a circle and put the holes for the T-nuts that go in there. And he or I had never done silk screening before. So we had to figure out and make a workstation for screen printing. And again, we had never done it before, so we knew nothing about it. So we went from never screen printing to doing hundreds a month. And then we had to figure out, okay, how do you sew this stuff together? So we found a guy down the street who's a furniture refinisher, um, upholster guy, and said, "Hey, we need these done." He goes, "I'd love the business." So he's been our guy since 2017 when we started doing that.
Wow.
And then after we got all the stuff here, then we had to figure out, okay, how do you staple this stuff? How do you attach everything together? So we had to teach ourselves how to do everything. And again, that was to the end of 2017, and we've been doing it here since then.
That's a remarkable story. It really is. Does 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 nothing phase you at all, Bill? We're just like, yeah, let's try it. What's the worst that can happen?
I just say, let's figure it out
Yeah. Wow.
for everything.
You know, And all this aside, you've worked on kits for some incredible artists. I know I've had John Douglas on the show, and
Oh yeah,
he's
he's one of my best friends.
he's very cool. And obviously, he mentioned your name, and I know you've done stuff together. Just tell us a little bit about that side of things, Bill.
Well, the first time I did stuff with Johnny was our mutual friend Joe Hibbs, who used to run Tama.
Hmm.
One of our, we were for each one of us, he was one of our closest friends. He was the one that got us together. And I think the first one we did, if I remember correctly, the first one that we did was for ZZ Top. And then we did a second one for ZZ Top. And then we did two for what's the band that Nuno Betancourt, the guitar
Oh,
player?
extreme.
Extreme. We
Mm,
did two kits for Extreme. And then the first really big one that we did was for the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
right.
So I'm gonna stand up for 1 second, but I'll be back. I mean, literally in a second.
Okay.
So we did Chad Smith's Octopus kit,
Yeah.
and
Ah, look at that. Yes, I
that's
remember
the
that.
that's the front bass drum head. They never picked this one up, so I have it on my wall.
That's very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I like that.
So Chad and Johnny and myself, we met at my house and we went over what he wanted it to look like, how he wanted it to be, all the details. And then we got the shells. At that time, we probably got the shells from Drum Doctor because I think Chad had, all of his stuff in storage with Ross.
Yeah.
So Ross brought it over to me. I did all my paint work, and then Johnny did his artwork. And then I did all the clear coating on everything. And that's how we did that. And uh, we did a kit for, well, we did a bunch of kits for Alex Van Halen because Johnny was Alex's tech for
Sure.
years.
Yeah.
So we did a bunch of kits for Alex. And that's again, Johnny would get the kits. He would do his thing. He'd ship them to me from Texas. I'd do my thing, and then they would go to Ross or no, Johnny would come out here when I was done and pick everything up and then take it to their rehearsal studio and then set everything up and go from there.
It's a hell of a story. It's match made in heaven, that isn't it? Let's be honest. It's like the dream.
Yeah, Johnny and I were, here's a story that I've told before is, excuse me again, I'm sorry. So I have three guys in my life that have 24/7 access to my shop for anything, any hour of the day, whatever's needed.
Mhm.
One is Johnny Douglas. The other is my friend Walter, who was from Susie and the Banshees, and then my other friend Mike Fasano. So all those guys, we're each other's safety blanket for anything.
Mhm.
So I'm doing a lot of work for Walter right now. I can't say what it's for, but we're doing just a ton of stuff for him right now.
Yeah.
And Mike Fasano is a studio guy here in LA. And we do stuff for him and make stuff for him, and he refers people to us, and the same thing with Johnny. So it's the three of us, and we all started. I think it as part of it comes from we all started just about the same time. So, and I was, my pork pie next year is going to be 40 years old.
Wow, really? That's
Yeah.
that's terrifying. It doesn't
Yeah.
sound
Yeah. You know what it means? It means I'm that old.
like it's a hell of a story. It really is. And honestly, I take my hat off to you, Bill, for the incredible work. Tell me, and it's important this, do you get the same joy from doing this that you always did?
Yeah, basically,
Hmm.
basically I do.
That's
I mean, I'm always thinking of new stuff. An example of my kit right here in my office. I just finished, I started making, I had the idea. I found a guy. I'm going to backtrack again just a little bit. I found a guy. I won't say where he is because nobody knows about him, but I found a guy in Europe that makes seamless snare drum shells.
Ah,
And I started ordering shells from him. And the shells are absolutely unbelievable. I mean, the quality is spot on. Material's nice and thick. No seam in it, no stupid weld. I mean, they're incredible shells. So I sent him an email one day and I said, "Hey, would you be able to make me an aluminum shell that's 3¼ inches tall that still has the bearing edge on it, but nothing on the bottom. I want just the top half of the shell." And he goes, "Yeah, I'll just cut it off. It's not a problem." So my idea was to take a wood shell on the bottom and figure out how to put the aluminum shell on the top and join them together because they can't just sit. The aluminum shell has to slide over the wood shell.
oh, okay,
But the diameter of the aluminum shell on top is the same outside diameter of the wood shell.
right.
There's fine. Thank you. So I had to figure out how do I cut a channel on the wood shell so that metal shell could slip over the top. So again, you figure it out. It was a great idea, and or I thought it was a great idea. I don't know what anybody else thinks, but I love it. And so I figured out how to do that. I mean, if you want to see it, it's right here. I can pull it
Yeah,
up and show it to
yeah,
you.
yeah, that would be
Yeah.
great. Yeah,
And I'm sorry for the coughing. It's very dry here right
yeah,
now.
don't worry.
So this is what it looks like.
That's incredible.
So it's a maple shell on the bottom,
Yep.
and then the seamless aluminum on the top. And so I figured out how to fit the two pieces together. And then these screws are really not needed,
Okay.
right? Because the lugs are going to keep everything together.
Sure.
So it's just a press fit on the two shells, but the press fit is tight enough to where uh, once they're joined together and you hold it up and tap it, it's got a really nice note.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if it was loose, it would rattle and it would, you'd hear funny things out of it. But I just think that the screws right there,
I think
I
they look.
just think that the screws look really cool.
They do. They look
It,
really
it
good.
looks to me like an airplane.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, and is it a good sounding drum?
Oh, they sound great because it's got the dryness of aluminum on
Mm.
top,
Yeah.
for the stick, so it's more dry, and then you've got the life of the maple shell in the bottom.
Because I have to say my probably favorite snare drum ever is the Ludwig Acrylite. I'm a huge fan.
Of course, yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and those sound great because, like I said, aluminum. I can't put this right here. Give me 1 second.
yeah.
Yeah, because aluminum is because it's such a soft metal. It doesn't have the same type of ring that like a brass or a copper
Mm.
will have or
Sure.
steel.
Sure.
So the thing that I like about aluminum is it's got nice articulation
Hmm.
um, and a great backbeat, but it doesn't have that drawn out ring like I said, like brass or copper because aluminum is soft.
Absolutely.
It absorbs the sound instead of pushing it out.
Mm. Wow. There's so much science involved with drums. It's crazy, isn't it? It really is.
So yeah, here's a funny story about that. 2 weeks ago, my sister-in-law, my brother and sister-in-law live very close to here, and her nephew was in town, and he brought his son because his son's a drummer. So they brought him by, and he said, "Would you mind showing us around? Show us how you do things." And I showed him all the different things that we do and all the tooling that I've made. The one thing about my shop here and all the stuff that I've had to make, which people don't realize, like if you go to like over here, we have Home Depot. I don't know if you have Home Depot.
No, no, we
Okay.
don't.
But like a home center,
Yeah, we have
if you're,
similar things. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So if you go in there to buy, let's say plywood, just, throwing it out plywood. everything in a house is square, basically,
Yep.
square or rectangular. So all the things that they sell at Home Depot are made to cut sheets of plywood. A handsaw that you rip the stuff with, or a table saw or radial arm saw, something like that. It's all made to cut flat surfaces. Everything that we do is round.
Yeah, of course.
So everything that all the saws and I mean everything we have here is a table saw, but I had to make something so we could cut something round on it.
Wow.
So I showed him all of this stuff, and my sister-in-law Donna, she sent me a text and said, "Thank you for showing Eric and Max around." And Eric wanted to know if you have a degree in engineering. And I'm like, "Oh, hardly." I told her, I said, "I barely got through dipshit math." So, you know, it's I my thing is if I find a problem, I spend my time thinking, how do I solve this problem?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's just what I do. And I got that from my father. That's the way my father was.
I think that's the best way. It really is. When you need to, you can do it. You can pull it out the bag, and
Right.
that's kind of been the
Yeah.
story of your career so far, hasn't it? Just what's the worst that can happen?
Well, see, the one thing to remember is when I started this, there was myself, there was GMS. I know you've heard of GMS,
Yeah.
and there was Joe Montanari.
Hmm.
There was the three of us. Custom drums did not exist
No.
at all. So we had to figure out everything because there was no books, there was no internet, there was nothing for us to fall back on because nobody knew how to make a drum. We didn't have access to Ludwig. Pearl and Tama were over in Japan. Uh, there was nothing from them because the internet didn't exist. So when I say that we use cardboard templates for finding out where all the lugs and all the pieces go on our drums, that came out of necessity
Mm.
because nothing existed. So when I get emails often from somebody that says, "Hey, just last week somebody sent me a an email that said uh, uh, Drum Foundry, I think, has a mat, like a plastic roll-up mat, and you can roll it out, and you can put it on a table, and it has all the markings where stuff goes."
Sure.
And I said, "Why are you going to buy this? Why are you going to spend money on it? Just think back to math. Think back to, pi 3.14 divided by 10, and you've got the spacing between
Mm.
the lugs, and just make your own template."
Mm.
Because I feel, and I'm not saying I'm right, but I feel that the more things that I make myself, the better builder I'm going to be.
Definitely. Oh, yes, 100%. You're not relying on
So,
anybody else's
right,
work.
right, exactly.
Mm.
So I try to make everything. I mean, if I could make all of my lugs in house, if I could make everything in house, I would, but that's not feasible.
No.
First off, I've only got 2,400 square feet to do all the stuff that we do.
Yeah.
There's no room, and honestly, I don't want to own a foundry. I'd rather have a sports car. Okay.
Yeah. Listen, Bill, this has been I don't know how long we've been talking, probably over an hour and 15 minutes almost.
Okay.
It's been honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure. It really has. I've learned so much. So I thank you for giving up your time. I really appreciate it.
Oh,
Um,
it's my pleasure. It really is.
it's honestly, there's so many questions. There's even questions that I never knew I wanted to ask, which I've asked today, which has been wonderful. And the great thing is, I never write things down. I don't like having to look at, paper and iPads.
Sure.
Um, but it just all, yeah, honestly, it's been fantastic. So look, a happy 40th anniversary of the company next year.
Thank you. I
And
appreciate that.
may things go onwards and upwards for you. So
I,
honestly, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much.
I appreciate it very much. Can I mention one more thing?
Please.
Okay. I need to leave you for another second.
Fine.
I'm going to show you something pretty cool. I'm not sure if you've seen.
Go for it.
So I was approached by the great Russ Miller.
Mhm.
I'm sure you've heard of Russ Miller. Um, Remember back in the day, he had the groove wedge.
Oh yeah, great sounding thing.
Okay. So when he decided that he was not going to be a Yamaha artist anymore, they decided that they were not going to sell um, the groove wedge
Mhm.
anymore. So he came to me. I've been working for him since 2013 on a lot of stuff. I mean, we're constantly working on something, especially now. So he kept on saying from 2013 on, he kept on saying, "All right, Billy, one of these days we're going to do it." And what he's referring to was making a different type of groove wedge.
Yeah.
So that is what this is.
Oh wow. Does is that mounted underneath the bolt?
It's got
Ah,
aluminum mounts that go through the tension rods, and
super.
you do your side stick on this.
Wow. Okay.
So years ago, I had the idea. Oh, I have a piece right here. So years ago, I had the idea of, and I had wanted to do this for a long time, but excuse me, never put really the time into it.
Hmm.
So if you look at this, let me, I'm holding two things at the same time. Uh, you notice the dark ply in the middle of that?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so this is two snare drum shells,
Okay.
and there's a layer of copper in the middle.
Wow.
So what I figured out how to do was to make a snare drum that is 8 plies maple,
Hmm.
a sheet of copper that goes all around the drum, top to bottom, and then another 8 ply shell on the inside. So we call it maple copper.
Yeah.
So when Russ came to me and said, "I want to, I want to, get this thing worked out," we call this an X click.
Hmm.
So you can see in this,
Yeah.
there's actually
Two.
two layers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what the copper does in this is it brings the note up
Mm.
a lot higher. So the cross stick is very pronounced. So uh, Russ was kind enough to make me a part owner of the company because I'm the one that came up with the design and everything else and the mounts and all that stuff. We've refined it together, but he was kind enough to make me a partner in the business. So I also manufacture all of these X clicks.
Like you haven't got enough to do.
Yeah. And since we started, we probably made around 10,000 of these things.
Wow. And I'm guessing the drum will fit in the case without having to take it off as well.
Yeah, it will.
So it just lives on the drum.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Blimey.
I'm actually in my shop today. I'm making all the blanks for X clicks. That's what I'm doing today. I'll be here all day just making blanks. After I make them, then they have to be sanded and they go to the saw and another saw and so
Wow.
that's my job today. That's why my
Excellent.
hands are covered with glue.
We won't mention the fact that you had a different t-shirt on earlier on. Don't forget to get changed back into the one with holes in. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Yeah, this is my karate t-shirt.
Oh, hey, Bill, honestly, it sounds like you've got a lot of work to do, so I'm going to let you get on with it. Thank you. Honestly, it's opened my eyes, this conversation, so in a good way. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
very good.
Speak to you soon.
Thank you very much,
Bye
my
bye.
friend, and it was a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you. Likewise. Thank you, Bill. Bye bye.